Hello and welcome to our podcast, The Ups and Downs of a Small Business Owner, where we hope to show you exactly what it's like to grow a business. Today, I'm here with Lakechia Jeanne, founder of Girls in Science, NK Tech Week lead, which has just finished, and Economic Development Officer at Milton Keynes.
Hi, nice to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
That's right. I mean, I've got a few questions on that, but let's kind of go to you first. So how would you describe yourself?
Oh, in what capacity?
I guess
Any?
let's just go right back, kind of growing up,
Yeah.
um, personality as a kid.
Okay. Yeah. Um, I think this might explain a lot. I'm an only child, and born and bred in Milton Keynes, and have been living here basically all of my life, except some time that I went to the University of York and Holyoke Medical School, just for higher education, I guess. Personality wise, always been very energetic, I think, very optimistic. I've been told I live in a bit of a utopia, but I think sometimes you have to create a bit of a positive bubble for yourself so you can really push as hard as you can and keep the motivation and the discipline up. I'm a Christian. My faith is super important to me. And I don't know what else I do. I love music. I love dancing, just love living very vibrantly. I don't know if that encapsulates me. Probably have to ask my friends for a better response. How do I come across? I don't know.
What would you describe? Okay, so if we go back to kind of you at the time, so you grew up in Milton Keynes, what was your dream?
So I had two major dreams. I wanted to be a paediatrician. That was the first thing I could remember. I loved science from day one and wanted to do medicine. At the same time, I kind of had a very conflicting pathway, which was that I was very involved in film and television from a very young age. I went to a theatre school in Milton Keynes and then got scouted by a London agency. So I spent actually a lot of my childhood in school, but then also doing a lot of filming, like for the BBC, CBBC, ITV, and various different programs. So that's kind of like the hidden background. I don't really talk about much now, but that was about 6 or 7 years of just constantly being in London, constantly filming. All of my summer holidays were oriented around filming series, usually children's series and a few adult dramas. And so, yeah, I just have this constant thing of just always working. And I probably started working when I was about 8. And it was tough. It was like very early mornings, late evenings, but I loved it. So that was fine.
Any that I would know?
So at the time, I had no idea who Helen Mirren was. And I was probably, I'm trying to think, that's probably the biggest person that I worked with. Helen Mirren. I did Prime Suspect, the final act. So I was I guess I was the child lead in that show. The Bill, which has recently been cancelled, I think. Some CBBC TV movies with Johnny's the great director, Summerhill, and a show called Living It, which very funnily enough, long story, but some of you might know Wise Guys, the sort of digital media agency, Milton Keynes, and they do a lot of filming and stuff. But Charlie, who is one of the founding partners of that, was actually in that TV show with me. So we kind of have that kind of like media background together. I'm trying to think what else. I did children's presenting, Blue Peter, Doctor Who with it. Oh, I forgot his name. He was on The Crown, the first season. I forgot his name. This is so terrible. He's pretty well known. Anyway, I can't remember his name. But yeah, some big series. And now, because the British film, I guess, community is quite small, even when I'm watching shows like Downton Abbey and stuff, I still see people, like names of people that I know or worked with behind the scenes and stuff. So it's a nice kind of background to have and community to kind of still be lightly involved with.
Just
Yes, I do. Yeah. There's one director who does some great work, Johnny, I mentioned, that like we speak to each other on Instagram every once in a while. I'm not in contact with Helen Mirren, sadly, but that's the thing. When you're a kid, none of these big names really matter. You just meet people and you think they're fun and you spend, weeks and weeks and months with them. And I was never allowed to watch TV really growing up. So I remember a couple months later seeing her poster like on London Underground when I was going for another audition. And I was like, Mum, what's Helen doing? What's Helen doing on a poster? But yeah, it was a really, really fun childhood. I had a blast.
well, there is also that element of you are working from 8 years old, I think you said.
Yes.
It can lead to burnout. It can have its downsides.
Yeah, I think especially with the series I did where there were lots of kids, I think those were the most fun because it did really feel like you were just hanging out with friends. And when you're a child, you come in with this kind of oblivion of like you're reading lines and you're just acting. And so I never really experienced burnout per se, but then also the laws for children working in the UK within film television are super tight. So a lot of my friends were actually twins so that they could do that kind of positioning of one's working and then they switch over to the other one. But yeah, that was I really have no bad memories at all. I do remember being tired, but it was, I mean, we would say this now for business, like when it's something you enjoy doing, it's a good tired. Yeah. Yeah. Energizing at the same time.
Sorry to keep going into this.
No, it's fine.
Did it have like an impact here? Because obviously you're not. Me as a kid, I was at the park,
Yeah.
Open Park with my friends every week, every day
Mhm.
after school and stuff like that. Whereas if you're going doing all this like TV shooting and stuff, like, did that have any impact on like your friends here?
Oh, 100%. At first, I remember, especially in my primary school, everyone thought it was really cool, but it turned into bullying quite soon after that. And so a lot of my primary school memories were very isolated. And I knew that, especially with schoolwork, my mum was a tiger mum, so I had to make sure all of my schoolwork was done all the time. So I would spend a lot of my time in the library, like working as hard as I could during school hours because I knew that at 3:30 I was on the train to London that evening. There was a period I remember where the acting really picked up. I was about 16. There were some new Tracy Beaker shows that were coming out at the time and a couple of other things and a feature film in South Africa actually that I was involved in. And it was coming up to GCSEs and it wasn't the head teacher, but one of the senior leaders of my school was just like, you may have to think about the time you're spending away from school. My grades never really slacked, but I think it was kind of a preventative measure. And that was when I made the decision of like, no, I'm going to stick to my studies. Um, and kind of run with that instead, which, serendipitous. What could have life been like if I just said, no, I'm going to go with the acting full time? But also the British industry, film industry was not what it is now. Like now it's leading in every single way. At the time, which was about 10 years ago, especially kind of being a young Black female, is pigeonholed quite a lot into specific roles. And it makes me so happy to see British film television now that anyone can play anything and it's not so sort of bound by characteristics. I remember that was one of my decisions of I didn't really want to play the stereotypes anymore. I kind of got a bit uneasy about things. And that was one of the things that kind of made me think like, no, I don't want to be a part of that. Let me just focus on science, which is what led to everything else.
So that was one dream.
Yes. So science. Yeah. So I wanted to be a doctor. I don't really know if it was a dream. All I knew is that I had to work really, really hard. Medicine is not a joke. So that was kind of in my head the entire time through primary and secondary school. And I got to sixth form, did all the big tests, the UK CAT, which was what you needed to get in. And I passed all of that, but then I didn't get in after interview. I think it was at Southampton that I interviewed it and I didn't get in. And that's when I was kind of like, what do I do? But then I ended up doing basically like a pre-med, so biomedical sciences. And it was about a year or two into that I realized I don't want to do medicine. It's great. I love the doctors. I think they should be paid their weight in gold. I always say that. But personally, it's just not for me. No.
Okay. So then you've kind of had a career and moved on from that. And I guess one thing I want to talk about is girls in science.
Yeah, that's fine. So it's a community-led initiative where we have the aim to empower and educate girls on the careers that they can have if they are interested in STEM. This kind of comes from my headspace of knowing that I really liked science, but thinking that being a doctor was all I could do with that degree. So as I say, 2 years in, also into my first degree, I met so many incredible like female professors. I did I actually I interned with BBC Look North while I was up in Hull and heard a bit more about science communication and how you can have a degree but do something completely different from that. Oh, like, my mind was blown. And I thought, like, my friends need to know about this because everyone here is panicking about getting to medical school. And there are so many other career opportunities where you get to still interact with people, you still get to help people, you get just as much money, if not more. And you're really kind of being a part of the industry rather than just kind of being at the core sort of medical part of it. So I started doing events when I was up at York. After I finished my undergrad degree, I did an MPH in public health, which was basically like a research master's, and started meeting with people and talking about things. Arranged my first event in York. I think there was about, I can't remember, maybe about 70 or so people, but I brought kind of industry in with girls from the area, did a bit of like advertising and told some friends, but the majority of it was just kind of sending stuff out on campus. And that turned out really, really well. York University decided to sponsor us for our first year. And that was while I was doing my master's. And that's basically how it started. So very organically.
That's
I
fantastic.
think it was 70. I'm trying to remember. I ran it because it was my first ever event that I'd ever run in my life. And I ran it with a lady called Iris, who really kind of showed me the ropes, and she was incredible. So it was sort of like a joint thing. And I kind of brought in the girls, and then she brought in the industry. And that's how we combined the first event. So I think there was about 60 to 70 girls that were there. And then we had lots of different people from like bioarchitecture to pharmaceuticals. And that's when I got the taste for, I guess, event planning, which is apparently what I do now. Yeah.
You also mentioned Star Wars sounds something.
So science, technology, engineering, and maths. Yes. Sorry, I should say that. It's another acronym people use too much.
Well, it's just making sure that I understand exactly what this.
Yeah.
So that's where it starts.
Yes, it is. It is. So it's our 9th year of running Girls in Science. I feel like I've had different focuses over the years. The past 2 years has been very much engaging industry in what we were doing. So I was running events for Girls in Science in Milton Keynes, but then also um, in York, Warwick. We had some London events as well. But this year, I've really been kind of very passionate about actually going into schools and bringing the companies into the schools. So we've worked with some great companies, HMGCC being one of them. They are a great company to work with. Santander as well. We ran an event with them earlier on this year. So still doing our joint events, still kind of doing the speaking circuit, but then also engaging in those kind of really high level workshops and impact pieces as well.
And then, so what, in really basic terms, just for somebody like me who's to understand it, you're essentially taking these girls from these industries and you're giving them a community, a group, somewhere to kind of learn a bit more and things like that.
Yeah. So what we're trying to do is sort of open up the world of potential industry to the girls that don't know about it just quite yet. And that's been our focus over the past year. So I'm just thinking the last event we ran was late summer. It was Women in Engineering Day, and we had 150 girls in a room with HMGCC. We were speaking about apprenticeships, what they would have to do to attain apprenticeships, what contracts look like in industry, what they could do in the meantime to kind of approach that. And it's almost a bit of like an inspiration thing. So they follow up with us on Instagram, for example, and their big prerogative is, okay, where can I get work experience or who can I speak to? So we get DMs all the time. As well as kind of more formal invitations from schools to help out with careers. And what we have found from doing events is that girls are more likely to understand the industry if it's not necessarily someone that's been in the industry for 20 years. Like if they have someone that's 3 or 4 years above them, 10 years max, who understands what it is currently like and kind of gets them and ties in their personality with how that could influence and be a huge part of the industry in general. That relatability is a super kind of key factor. And that's kind of what we specialize in, of bringing the girls into science, but all kind of making it feel like we're all in this together. And yeah, just having that kind of commonality is really important for us.
Okay. So, yeah, I might end up jumping back.
Yeah,
Like,
that's fine.
if we kind of talk
Yes, my baby.
first.
It was, yeah. So last year we ran the Milton Keynes Artificial Intelligence Festival. It was October, I believe. So it was the anniversary of the safety summit, the AI safety summit that happened in Bletchley Park. And that was sort of like a pilot for what we wanted to do, which was always in the back of our minds of the Milton Keynes Tech Week. That went really well. We had about 2,300 people turn up across the space of the week with only 16 events. So I ran that as part of the economic development team with the city council. And yeah, it was basically one of those things of like, this was really great, Lekesha, let's do it again. Okay. So we started planning this. I say we, it's mostly myself. I do have a really great team that help out, but they all have it's the council. So everyone's running their own projects, their own kind of work streams. But I definitely called in the troops closer to the time. So Suki, Lisa, Sam, and of course led by Sophie Lloyd, all working on a series of events. It was 31 events that we did in the space of about 6 days with I'd probably say about 28 partners in total, all bringing a heightened awareness to the tech industry that is in Milton Keynes, with the aim to support businesses or individuals that either want to get into the tech industry or enhance what they already have and enhance their business capabilities. Everything from, and I know I saw you at a couple of events as well, so everything from workshops, seminars. We had about 3 conferences across the space of the week. My personal aim was to kind of bring some vibrancy and some conversation to like, okay, like Milton Keynes is doing all of this stuff. And I mean, I'm in sort of the back house of it, seeing all the statistics and understanding that like our GVA is 13 billion and 3.4 billion of that is specifically associated with tech. We have the tech report that came out a couple of years ago that really kind of pertains to all these big statistics. But it's kind of like when you walk around, sometimes you don't really feel it. So my job was to kind of bring that feeling for people that attended and kind of help people to visualize what the stats are actually saying.
I mean, I would argue Milton Keynes is quite advanced. I never get over, my wife's got family in Devon on a trip where at the time I think I had, I don't know, I might have had a Ford or a Tesla.
Yeah.
So basically I went from a Ford to a Tesla or a Mazda to a Tesla.
Yeah.
Petrol to
Electric.
And I remember them saying, there's no way this electric's going to kind of be a thing. And I was like, but genuinely driving around in Milton Keynes, every couple of cars, there's an electric car. You
Absolutely.
guarantee any journey you do in Milton Keynes, you will see an electric car. And they were like, no, it's never really going to be a thing. Like, and I was just mind blown. And then I went to see a client in Welwyn Garden City, which isn't that far. It's close to London. And they were like, yeah, we don't have anywhere to charge or anything. So I don't think the infrastructure's there. It's not a thing. And I'm just mind blown. Like, because here in Milton Keynes,
we take our pick, don't we? Yeah.
Like, you know, we've all got electric cars, but and then also when people come here, they talk about the robot, obviously the robot delivery things. And they're like, oh, they are actually real. Because they've seen it on TikTok or they've seen it on YouTube or something. And it's like, yeah, that's just normal now. Like we've had it for, I don't even know, 5 years.
Yeah. Starship robots, which I think it was I think we got the kind of proposal from Starship just before I entered the team, but I'm seeing versions of that now that I'm leading some of the smart city initiatives. And we get proposals all the time from international companies, literally from everywhere, from like Singapore to Tel Aviv to America, that are trying to trial some really high tech innovation pieces in the UK, but everywhere else has basically said no. They know that Milton Keynes is the place to do that. We have a very open, forward-thinking council.
So why is it?
It is, yeah. I think to be fair, I mean, from speaking to these businesses, they know that the council are going to try whatever they can do to try and push this out, unless it's physically impossible. And even then, I know we've pushed boundaries and really tried to be really innovative with having a bit of imagination and just understanding that if you want to test something, Milton Keynes is the place to do it. And that's an ethos that we have in our team. So we move mountains to try and make that work. And the Starship robots are an example of that.
Yeah, I mean the electric scooters as
yes.
well.
Yeah, I was there actually when they came and like tested it with our team, and then we were riding around like council offices and stuff. And of course, like there are some great examples where things have started, not quite worked out, or we haven't got quite past the first bar yet. A lot of that is, and you would know this, that the tech industry is moving a lot faster than even regulations can allow. I mean, one of my personal headaches is like looking at like, and I think we had this, my mum just got an electric car as well. And it's like, this car was so new that like insurance companies didn't even know how to classify it and stuff. Yeah, which is like, whoa. But so there's that at the smaller scale, but then you also have that at the larger scale of like, you know, regulatory bodies, we have to kind of help them create what the governance is going to be because the technology is moving so fast, or influence it in some way. So one of the projects I'm working on is the autonomous vehicles as well, which is you did. I have to get you on one. I have to get you on one. Yeah. I would know, we'd love to have you. So we're working with a smart city consultancy in Portford who is very visionary, very fast paced, just how we like it. And we received a second round of sort of government funding to expand our routes, to kind of understand what this would look like as a use case to actually carry the public around in these driverless vehicles. It's happening now. So they are driving around. We are just trying to figure out how we can make sure that the public experience is as perfect as possible. Of course, with all the regulatory things, we have to be so meticulous about health and safety and everything. So Ian has a great tech team that's working on that as well as with the council. There's a lot of policies that we have to look at to make sure everything's great for the public.
Without kind of putting a dollar on it, I remember reading a thing of if, like, the driverless car, if that has an accident, who's at fault? Things like that. Trying to work out who's responsible for it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, either these driverless companies are then fully at fault, and it could be that it's, in my opinion, it's humans. It's human interaction. If we just kind of went completely driverless, I think it would be absolutely fine because the cars would know what's going on and be able to read each other. But humans aren't quite as easy to read sometimes, and they can react.
Yeah, and those are the same sort of questions that insurance companies are asking and trying to get their heads around. I think from our perspective, it's about reassuring industry, making sure that we have the right procedures in place so that everyone knows exactly what the worst case scenario is, and that we build the tech to kind of prevent that as much as we can. So, and even coming down to, what is the actual definition of an emergency stop in an autonomous vehicle versus a driver vehicle, So there's a lot of language that we're looking at, that the industry is looking at, a lot of understanding. We work with a lot of IoT pieces and sensors, and the tech is honestly, it's beyond my head. We have some really incredible engineers. Kieran, who's leading on that in the smart city consultancy team, is doing an incredible job of these people have years and years of experience of building things like this, and they're a lot more skilled at it than I am.
What I find incredible is, like, you're seeing that, and to you that's normal. To the rest of the world, like, nobody's seeing anything close to that.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of coming away. Driverless cars are just there. That they're working, and I've not actually seen it in person. So for me, it's like I'm excited for it, but it's still not there. I wonder when it will come.
Yeah.
Maybe in a year, 2 years, 3 years. Does that have like an impact on you? Like, because you're kind of already 2 years in front, and you're seeing all this stuff.
Right. So I remember coming back from university, seeing all these new big buildings in Milton Keynes and feeling really out of the loop and feeling a bit like upset, actually. I was like, this is my hometown. I have no idea what's going on. Like, what are these buildings? What is going on? And I know that if it wasn't for my role at the city council, I still would feel that way. I'm trying my very best, and I know, and this is why they've kind of put me in this sort of like a lot of public engagement stuff, is trying to inform the public as much as possible and encourage them to engage with the stuff that we're doing so that they feel like they have a sense of knowing that they know what's happening in their hometown, because that's how they'll truly, and we will all truly like identify with it. And I guess it's how tech evolves. Like, the public needs to feel comfortable to use it. And you're right, it's not really something that's happening in the UK a lot at the moment. But if you have this conversation in California or San Francisco or Singapore, like we're almost like the babies in comparison to some of these people and what they're doing. But it's good to be ahead of the curve and ahead of the game. And yeah, that's kind of what Milton Keynes, I know the city council for sure, are really trying to push. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Everyone has a funny story about it. Like, didn't they?
Yeah, so we went to once.
Okay. Where is that? Sorry. Oh, okay.
So Germany, Dortmund, they had electric scooters. We were like, oh my God, this is incredible. To 25 lads on
Mhm.
stag do.
Oh,
This is brilliant. We've all kind of done it. It's a couple of quid, thought nothing of it.
yeah.
We're racing around the shopping centre bit, which is like all pathways.
Mhm.
And over there, we're racing around, weaving in and out, like being idiots, as you would, like 30 blokes, all have you change, all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then we come out to this bit and there's a place all kind of sat there. You're not allowed to take them on paths. They're for road only.
Right.
And we were like, we didn't understand. Again, we're in a different country,
Mm.
different people. Police officers suddenly take all our passports, charged $100, €100
Each.
as a fine. And we're like, oh my God, we're just glad we got our passports back. Like, that should cost us €2,500.
Yeah.
But so that was kind of almost put me off using them again, because I was like, I am not touching another like electric
If I
scooter.
see one again.
But then when I see them here, I was like, wait, people are using them on the paths, they're using them on like redway. Are they not road vehicles? Like, how does this work? So
Yeah.
and again, it comes back to like the regulatory thing. It's like, it's really hard to know what you can and can't do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a good point you raise. So different countries have, obviously, as you would expect, different regulations and laws as to where things like Lime scooters, like which is what we have, can be used. I know that there have been companies that have been trying to get into the UK that their kind of business plan didn't align with the laws that we've had here, so haven't been able to be successful. But I think it is a reassurance thing. You can know that within, I can't speak for other places, but within Milton Keynes, because I see it myself, like if something has been allowed on the street, if something is available for public use, you can be guaranteed 100% that it has gone through every single checkpoint, every single legal point. The health and safety teams look at it. Like, it's been a copious process to be able to be put out in public use, because obviously, you're completely right. What we put out, we're responsible for. And I know that the team are very meticulous about making sure that it is kind of the best use cases as physically possible. But yeah, I can't speak for Germany, unfortunately.
And they do work really well here. That often, some obviously.
I'm trying to get my mum on one. She hasn't been one over yet. But
Just don't hit the job. It's my only advice.
okay, I feel like there's a story behind that.
Yeah, I think some of my friends have hit, essentially, they've taken it home, hit a curb, gone face first into the rough.
Wow. No, that doesn't sound very comfortable.
Yeah. But other than that, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's so good that we have that sort of thing here. Absolutely love it. The MK Tech Week, I think, works perfectly for that. I've got all sorts of feedback. I can do that afterwards.
I'd love to hear.
It was a great week. But, some of the events I've go to, like I talk to people and they go, oh, I haven't heard of it yet. What is it? Like,
Yeah.
somehow we need a massive budget to make sure everyone hears about it in the future. But I guess coming back to like you and with like girls and science and stuff like that, how important has it been to sort of know your numbers?
Okay, explain that a little bit for me.
So I guess from like a financial point of view,
Yes.
running these events, even from Tech Week, like you essentially get your budget. How important is it knowing the numbers at any given time?
Oh my gosh, that's if not the biggest factor. I think when it comes to business, at the end of the day, it is very much about the bottom line. It's very much about making sure that you're in the green and not in the red. And working for a local authority, especially in this kind of economic climate, we have to be so on top of all of the financial transactions that we make, exactly how much we're getting in. And Sophie says this to me all the time, our team ethos, like every single pound we spend is important and it needs to be justified. When I say I was working on Tech Week from January, that was basically what I was doing for like the first 3 to 4 months, is justifying how and why we would spend this budget, what it would be on. And then also being in the government, making sure that our politicians were okay with the use of the money as well. So there was also sort of like political buy-in, and that all revolves around the numbers. When it went to the actual week and we were looking at, like you say, things like marketing and things, that's where I could be a little bit more creative, but then also understanding that we need to be as effective as possible with what we use this money on. So And I completely get that I don't have all of the answers. I did a lot of kind of experimenting to try and see how could we push it out? How could we make sure that everyone was able to see it? And then obviously my view is very biased because I look at my LinkedIn feed or my friends' LinkedIn feeds and it's full of Milton Keynes Tech Week stuff. But obviously not everyone has the same algorithm. And so one of the big pushes I did make was for the city council to essentially allow me to create an Instagram for Milton Keynes Tech Week. We didn't do a lot of push out for that. I think we did a reasonable amount, but I mean, checking the stats over the past couple of days, and we've had upwards of 90K views on the page specifically for the Tech Week pieces. As one, I think, post that I boosted at one point that led to like 130 or so push outs on the website. I think we need to be more creative. And I say I need to think about this for next time, is more creative in how people are able to find out about things. But then also understanding that we are the first local authority in the UK to ever run a tech week. It's always private companies. And when it comes to private companies or commercial companies, they have so much more freedom in what they're able to do. I can't justify printing out 3,000 leaflets and putting it in everyone's post box. I can't justify making ads, for example, and putting out on LinkedIn all the time or putting stuff out on Facebook. Like, there's a little bit of restraint that I also push back, which is rightfully so, because obviously the council's running a lot more than just Tech Week. So there is that. And I think part of that conversation is coming from the momentum of this, how can other businesses get involved to really push it out on their streams, perhaps use some of their financial backing, so it's not just the council and some of our headline sponsors, to make the outreach as far and wide as possible. Because as I say, the city council can only do so much and there are some restrictions. But I think when industry takes this and owns this, it's like the world is your oyster. And that really excites me.
So just on, find it.
Where do you find what?
Information.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine. Well, first of all, you're talking to me. Any questions, even after this, we can talk about it. But on Instagram, we have the name Milton Keynes Tech Week. So the full name, everything is on there. And I organize this myself. So like, it's sort of like, every day has all the footage from all the different activities. All our partner interviews are on there, just general. And I was alluded to this earlier, kind of like the vibrance and the vibe and making sure people understood what the energy of the week was like is very important to me. Same thing on LinkedIn, Milton Keynes Tech Week. And then we have our website, miltonkeynes.techweek.com. And then what else do we have? I don't think we have a Facebook account or an X account. Maybe that's our target audience we need to look into next. But
yeah, I mean, I start away from X now.
I don't even think I have an account. Yeah.
It's really engaged with that much.
Same.
It's out there. So if we're kind of talking through your journey, again, we're going kind of start to finish. What would you say has been your biggest failure?
Oh, okay. Just professionally, are we thinking career-wise? Okay. I'd say my biggest learning point, I do believe in failures. I do believe that every human is, if they're alive, you get regrets and stuff. But I think my biggest learning point was surrounding myself with people that I guess understood what I was trying to do, understood the core of me and were able to support in that, and vice versa as well. I think the people that you surround yourself with are everything. They almost single-handedly define the way you see yourself and the kind of the path and the vision you have for your life. And I failed in years past because I guess I was in groups or with people that touch the mic there. I was in groups or with people that didn't necessarily have my best interest at heart. And I think that getting out of that kind of circle and putting myself in a place where I was isolated for a time, but it really helped me to understand what I wanted to do with my life and what our next steps were. But then really praying for good friends and a good kind of a community has been such a game changer, such a game changer. I know that I can pick up the phone and speak to someone when something professionally bad is happening or like I'm trying to figure something out personally as well. Yeah, so I'd probably say my failure was hanging on to kind of old situations for a little bit too long.
Follow-up question was, what did you learn from that? So that's
okay.
You've already answered. Well, you answered the learning. So when you're talking about how that transition, what did you find worked? Because that's a tough place to be.
It is very tough. think to make good friends, first of all, you have to be a good friend. And I don't think I really understood what that was for a very long time. First of all, like when you're a new child and you're very independent and you're doing everything yourself, it's hard to feel safe sometimes with people or to feel like you can be vulnerable with people. So I think what worked was understanding that vulnerability is actually a strength if you share it with the right people, even if it is at work or even if it is with your circles. And this is stuff everyone knows, but kind of finding your tribe is really important. But I think we live in a very superficial world, and sometimes that kind of trickles down into the relationships that we have. But I just think, like, who knows how short life is? Like, life is too short to just be talking about the weather with your friends. You need to have, I'm obligated now to have at least a deep conversation once or twice every week, because it just gives me the right perspective on life.
That's essentially what I think this. So that I make
Mm.
sure that I'm having a deep conversation with people that are, like you said, like the perception of people is like everybody's out there, everyone's smashing it, everyone's doing really well.
Yeah.
Some people have bad days, some people have lonely days, some people are struggling. That's fine.
Yeah.
The time it's okay to not be okay and stuff like that. And that's kind of why I've tried to do this and show you that actually we've all been through awful things, we've been through some great things.
Yeah.
You almost have to have one to get the other, because if everything was flatlined, you wouldn't have the other.
Absolutely. And I would say that one of my biggest, I think, first of all, it's a great initiative that you've kind of said that we need to slow down the pace every once in a while and actually have these deep conversations. It's super important. And I'd probably say a big part of my professional kind of success came after a really bad personal time where I realized that, like, there must be so many people out there that don't feel connected, that aren't going to anything that inspires them or don't feel like they have a community. And whether I think about Girls in Science or Milton Keynes Tech Week, I know now that my kind of superpower is helping to facilitate communities and facilitate places where people feel inspired. So sometimes I guess your own next big move can come from, a really bad time that you had personally. Yeah.
So if you say you've kind of been there, like, as in you've been where you didn't know where you belong.
Oh yeah, like completely isolated and just not feeling connected to anyone. I prayed, if I'm being completely honest.
Okay.
I think my relationship with God is so important to me. And I just believe in having an open communication with God at all times, even when you're confused or kind of mad at him for stuff. Because I don't have, as I said, I don't have siblings or anything, but if you have close friends and you don't tell them when you're upset, like what is that if you don't feel like you can tell people how you're feeling? So yeah, I think I had a season of kind of just being a little bit isolated, trying to figure things out, praying and just kind of trying to figure out what my next best steps were. I got connected to a really good church community in Oxford, which is not in Milton Keynes, sadly, but it's worth the trek, a Baptist chapel in Oxford. And I was in an environment where everyone kind of looked at life in a very similar headspace. The leaders there were super compassionate, super open, super transparent. And that wasn't a style of leadership that I had seen before, especially in religious circles. So it was really just mind-blowing to me. It's like, oh my gosh, everyone's figuring it out. Personally, I'd rather figure it out with God than just kind of walk through life blindly. And I think having that structure and feeling like I had a point of truth to go back to has been such a huge anchor. And I know for my friends in the circles I'm in now, in the world like today, like you need hope. Where else are you going to turn to?
Yeah, I get that. I won't go too much into it, but like, I'm not religious. I've not got. I find it fascinating. I've got friends of all different religions, and I probably ask them more than I probably should.
You don't always ask questions. It's the most important
so
thing.
Intrigued by everything.
Yeah.
And I think personally, I like the idea of Buddhism the most.
Okay. What about it really draws you in?
I love the idea of like enlightenment and just having that. I can't even remember what, but like when they're essentially like they do their retreats where they don't have any communication with anyone for a week or something. They find mental peace or whatever it is. That blows my mind. Like, oh my God, that sounds horrendous, but equally good.
I think that's a human requirement. I think you need times where you're just disconnected from tech and people. I actually kind of did that after Tech Week. I was like, Mum, I have, it's a long story, but I basically have an apartment, but I love living with my family. So I kind of like alternate between places. But I was just like, I just need some time, like just to hibernate after all of that social interaction.
Yeah, you're a sushi, but
Exactly. Yeah.
that's tough.
It
You
is.
just need, don't want to talk to anyone, don't want to look at anyone, just
Mhm.
feel my own. I get that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so to come back to religion, that's kind of where I sit. Like, as I said, I've got things that I remember a time even it's fascinating.
Yeah. And one thing I find really interesting, especially among Gen Zs, is that the rise of Christianity in particular is booming at the moment. I remember when I was back at school and it was a science-based school and everyone kind of thought atheism was the in thing. And I actually studied philosophy while I was there. And I think it's important to ask questions and understand why you believe what you believe and what everyone else is thinking so that you have a bit of a narrative and you don't make judgments for lack of education, you know? But I think, as we say, like the world is dark and who knows, what's going to happen tomorrow. I think it's important to ask the big questions regularly because that goes to our kind of deep versus superficial thing. If you're just ignoring, you know, the probability or likelihood of death, for example, and you don't ever think about it, then what's the point?
Unfortunately.
10 out of 10 people die. Exactly.
But yeah, no, I find it the views on it, but also that you just mentioned actually that it when I was growing up, it wasn't cool.
Yeah.
I was christened. I went to a Church of England school. I was very much involved in. We had like events at the church, and I'd go to the walls.
Those good COV schools, yeah.
Yeah. So there was all that sort of thing going on, and then I kind of got to secondary school and all that. I want to try and be cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, and now, like, the more you talk to people, everyone's kind of going to a religion.
It's
So
definitely in. Yeah.
I think it just gives people peace of mind. It gives you all these unanswered questions. It just gives you something to believe and to focus on.
I get that. One of my best friends didn't grow up religious at all and became a Christian maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And she was very career oriented and was really kind of pushing for things in her own world. And I find it really interesting because I grew up being, I don't really say I grew up being a Christian because I do think it's a kind of a personal decision you have to make. But I definitely was in the right environment. So like you say, I went to the CB school, went to church. But it's what I feel now is that people come to their kind of turning point for different reasons. Some people, it can be like, oh, I just want peace, or I just want to like feel like if I die, everything's not going to end. But it doesn't really matter how you get there or how you kind of decide on whether you're going to believe in God or not. But I think it's important, like you say, to keep asking yourself the questions. Don't brush things past. Like, don't put things to the back of your mind, like really dig deep. Because I think about my degree, like I spent, 7 years working for a piece of paper. I don't even know where it is now. If you ask me about like biomedical pathways, I'm not sure I could be very good at it. But I think your life and your eternity is worth some kind of study. Like it's worth something. It's more valuable than a piece of paper.
Exactly that. That was another reason why I like Buddhism. I really like the idea of reincarnation.
Okay.
Do I believe it? I'm not sure, but
I think as you say, there is a life after death thing, and it makes sense to the human mind because it brings in these ideas of justice and people getting what they deserve. No one wants to think that, I don't know, the worst example I can use, Hitler or someone, is just like living fun and free now, like it's an interesting, I think it gives the human moral some sense of everything's going to be made right. Let's do it. It's fine.
Can I have a human
Mm-hmm.
life is you can't give it.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that energy, that something is then just kind of shared around, whether that's to an animal, whether that's to human, but that because you've still got all the same things, it can still work.
Yes, like technically the person should be up and walking around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I the human body is a shell, and it only takes an MRI scan to understand that there's a lot more happening inside than people expect. And I think that is what, and I went, obviously I'm a scientist, and I went to university where we were studying biological pathways and pathology and everything. I was surprised at how many of our professors were believers in God. Some of the greatest scientists in all of world history were theists. And I often try to clap back at that whole thing of like, science and religion doesn't mix. I think science explains religion, and I think religion gives context to science. And I think they're actually very interchangeable. And people who say that they shouldn't coexist don't know much about either of them. But for someone that has multiple degrees in science and spends a lot of time reading her Bible, there's a lot of correlation. Yeah.
Excuse me if I offended.
No, go for it. Yeah. You remember your stories very well. So impressed. That CB school did good.
Big stories constantly.
Yeah.
Films and stuff. I enjoy it.
Yeah. I think so. I understand that. And one of the things I've been looking at recently are basically like the historical accuracy of the Bible specifically. I find it really fascinating that like the world only has like 22 living accounts that Cleopatra existed and like 200 accounts that Julius Caesar existed. And yet this is taught as fact in like secondary schools and primary schools. There are more than, I'm not going to get the number correct, but I believe there's more than 20,000 references that Jesus existed. And suddenly he's a fictional character. And I think that, and again, it goes back to the thing of like, I think you should ask questions. I think, and I encourage this to all of my friends, and a lot of which are scientists or very well educated people, and are trying to piece a lot of this stuff together. Asking questions is the best thing you can do.
So let's come back to.
We went on a tangent there.
Yeah, that's what it is. What are your biggest success?
Oh, I think, and I think it's almost the same answer as the first time round, but I would probably say is my biggest success is having a very stable, very encouraging community. At the end of the day, like, all you really have in your life are the people that are in it, and I think being able to have that is such a big deal for me, especially knowing what it was like without them. But also, I think there's something about like the bounce back, I don't know how else to call it, of like, and this, I'm sure lots of people can relate to this, of when you have a tough time and you physically see yourself getting the spark back. I think that is something that I don't think about too often, but in context of everything, I'm very proud that happened. Yeah.
It's quite incredible. And it sounds like you spent a lot of time working on your networking things. And I say this to the guys here, like, networking or business networking isn't necessarily going to them events and it's talking to them conversations where everyone's going, yeah, it's all great.
Yeah.
Just build people that you get on with, people that you like, people that you can include in your life.
Exactly. I always say make friends, not contacts. And I don't believe in, and you can tell, I'm sure you've experienced it too, where you're at a business event and you meet someone and it's very transactional and you almost feel a bit like, oh, when they've left, like, oh, what was that?
To be fair, that's all I knew.
Yeah.
It's really awkward and it's really cringy, and I'm like, oh yes, so I can do all this services for you and we can do that. And then you kind of walk away like, nothing's going with that. And as you say, it's very transactional. But
yeah,
I think we need something to teach us not to do that. But there needs to be just here to make friends, just here to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Find your network, whatever your network is. It doesn't need to be a business network.
Mm-hmm. Pilates network.
Exactly. Yeah. Or the church.
Yeah.
Anyway, it needs to just be your people.
Yeah. When it comes to business, you're so right. I think, and you know this, people buy into you and they buy into your personality and the energy that they get off of you. It's not necessarily even about what you're selling all the time. And so, yeah, having that kind of headspace and being very transactional isn't good for business.
Unfortunately, if people were very transactional with me, like, you can get accountancy services. I mean, there's hundreds even in Milton Keynes and something like that. So, and I'm sure there's a lot that are cheaper, and then be a lot that are more expensive. So, and as you say, it's that personal bit. It's the bit that you can do and that you give back and that they feel like they're safe with you.
Exactly. It's that exactly the emotional safety, having commonality with people so that they feel like you're aligned in some way. And then you can talk about business afterwards. That's from observation that I feel like that's what usually works.
If we talk about kind of your journey, so right back from the beginning to right to now, have you had like a mentor?
No, I haven't actually. I find, and this is something to do with Girls in Science, I find the idea of like a strict, structured mentorship a little bit awkward. So I did an event with Freeth's, actually a law firm, a couple of years ago, where I spoke about having a board of executive advisors. I think, what did I call it? I'm trying to remember what I called it. A personal development board. I had like this phrase, we did this whole workshop thing on it, and that's really sad. I can't remember my own term. But basically, like, I think unless, you're friends with like Gandhi or something, like, you're not going to meet someone that has every single thing that, you want or you want to aim to be. I think it's important to look at an array of people, see what qualities in each person that you think, I really love how she does that, or I think he's really good at that, and kind of create a bit of a ideal personality for yourself from everyone. And then if you need advice in those specific areas, go to the people that you think are going to be best for that. But I haven't had an actual mentor. Maybe apart from my mum, she's had opinions about everything. That's what she's there for. She's my creative director, I guess.
So I guess actually it's probably quite a good topic. AI.
Yes.
How much of an impact?
At the moment, it's huge. As you know, I guess the tech and innovation space, AI is the word at the moment. I personally use AI multiple times a day for various different work streams. And I do think if used rightly, and this was mentioned in some of the conferences last week, small businesses that have 3 people on their teams will be able to be doing the work of 20 people, and it will be a game changer. But I do think it will heighten the extremities of digital inclusion. I think people that jump on the bandwagon and are open and creative and get to work will experience a higher sort of benefactory sense of what it can be. And then people that don't want to take it up at all will see the effects of that, is my personal opinion.
So if you have one AI software that you could say,
I feel so bad saying this, but it is ChatGPT. I'm so sorry. So generic. And I know there's so many different platforms. But if I think about what I use, like personally, like sometimes I use it to like logically advise friends and step out of situations emotionally and think about, okay, what's the actual steps of what's actually happened? Let's be factual about this. Yeah, I think I probably use it more kind of personally than I do for work. Yeah.
I'll talk. So Gemini is the one we use instead of ChatGPT.
Of course.
Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
We're doing a expo next week.
Oh, fun.
You're talking about AI and stuff like that. So I was like, we've just bought a space. We've got an expo. What do we do? So I literally asked it, what do I need to ask the company?
As you should.
And things like that. And then it spits out a load of things.
Absolutely.
And then I'm like, right, what do I need? What source do I need? And it's incredible. So
absolutely
I built out, and Gemini calls it gems, but I've built out like a CFO, CMO, CRO, like all these different C-suite jobs that as AI. And I've given it all the background. So then I just go into that chat and we can do that.
About that. Let's, yeah.
From a marketing point of view, what do we do? And then I throw that to the CFO and he says, absolutely not, don't spend any money.
Absolutely. From the information that you're giving it, I think the most creative way I've used it was to decide like what car I was going to buy and stuff. The car space is a space I feel very undereducated about. And I always feel a little bit like I'm being scammed. I'm sure you'd understand. You see like a young female walking into a car showroom and being like, I just want a car. Yeah. And can it look kind of nice? Like, I don't know what else I need. Yes, I know I need to get an autonomous vehicle, don't I? But so I used that. I went through all of the contracts with ChatGPT. I was asking it questions. I kind of saved myself a couple £1,000 because of various add-ons that these companies add. That was probably one of the moments that I was like, yay, that was useful.
I showed it to my wife and I said, I can redo that. She redesigned our whole downstairs.
I love it. Well, you got to make it happen. You got to do it.
That's what she's doing. She then found the painters that could do it, and then
I bet she asked ChatGPT for the picture.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
great.
she's literally just uploading pictures, and she's got really excited.
Yeah.
She's doing all that stuff.
I'm in bridesmaid mode at the moment for a couple of my friends, some weddings coming up, and I know like the mother of the groom has like done the whole landscaping of like the reception area, taken pictures, and has gotten ChatGPT to design the wedding landscape. It works. I'll let you know.
Okay, so towards the end of the podcast, we do this. What we're going to do is pick one card each, and we're going to ask each other a question.
Oh, that sounds fun. Thank you. Okay, do you want to go first? Yeah, I'll ask you the question first.
Okay.
Is that okay? So this is, when was the last time you changed your mind about something life-changing?
Change.
About something life-changing.
That's a tough one. I don't think I've done it in a long time. What I'd say is, I've mentioned it in other podcasts, but for various reasons, fell out with my mum. Talked to her for about 6 or 7 years. And I kind of thought, what's the point? Like, why am I being bitter? Like, it's not helping anyone. It's not achieving anything. I basically took the view of, well, whatever's happened. We can't change it. There's nothing we can do about it. And kind of got back in contact. We kind of got talking again. She now looks after my daughter 2 days a week.
That's amazing.
I see her pretty much every day of the week. And so I'd say it was that moment that when I was sat there and I was like, if something, God forbid, horribly happened to her, I would feel awful that I've been bitter over something that happened 8 years ago. So, and I think that's not just changed it for me and her, that's changed it for me and everyone.
Yeah.
I now take the view that my energy isn't worth being negative, being upset, being frustrated, being annoyed at people. Actually just be me and get over things. So yeah, I feel
That's huge. It's a very big deal.
quite a big thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that was about 5 years ago. Say, you know, looked after my daughter twice a week, so I couldn't do that. So, yeah, it works.
That's very cool.
Really, have you got any of the life-changing decisions you've changed?
This is a very hard question. Change your mind about something life-changing. I'm so sorry. I honestly can't think of anything. I feel like tonight I'll be like on my sofa and be like, yes, that was what I should have answered.
So, I'll go with this one then. I was wondering what you believe happiness is and how it can be achieved.
Oh, okay. I believe happiness is being comfortable enough with yourself to know and understand your flaws, to know and understand your strengths, to accept both of those entities and to seek help. A full understanding of yourself, a full acceptance of yourself, and a push towards personal development that improves your life and the lives of others around you. And I think the path to doing that, and I'm biased, we've spoken about this, but I do believe that the Bible and understanding the historical life of Christ kind of gives you a place in all of history to put yourself in and to see kind of how small you are in comparison to everything. But then to also have an awareness of how fleeting life is, but how the small actions that you do now can have an eternity of consequences. Yeah, just kind of putting yourself in like the context of the world. Can we do another one? That's actually quite fun. I don't think we have enough time. Okay, I got to me. Oh, would you do it all again? This is the question. Would you do it all again? That's it.
Will I do it all again? Yes, absolutely loved it. It's like, I can't take the view of, I'm here, I wouldn't change anything. Everything happened for a reason, and I believe that it's all good. So
I love that.
Enjoying it. I think that's probably been one of my biggest things. Is there was a time I was like, I need to do the biggest business, need to earn the most money, need to do this, need to do that. That's what society tells us we want to do. We need the biggest house, biggest car, flashy stuff. And what I've learned is doing this podcast and talking to people who, and actually, I don't want to be there. And I think that's what I've learned is that I don't want, and it's doing things that I want rather than what society tells me I want.
Yeah, what's expected of you. Yeah, that's good. And you're so right. So true. I think that's the other thing about, like, I'm only like 8 years into my career and meeting all of these C-suites, like you say, like people that are at the top of their game. And it's like, they still just value being with their family. They still just value like liking their job and all these things, like the things that make them happy aren't necessarily what you think it is.
It's like people travel the world for work. And then I said, like, you have been. Because I don't get to see my family. Some traveling around the world doing this and doing that. When do you, like, I think I've got really quite deep with a few people. Like,
Yeah.
they've missed their kids growing up, or one little incredible story where he's walking along a park with his kid got put at risk in the river. He was on the phone behind a business deal and wasn't paying attention and stuff like that. Like,
Wow.
and I'm like, oh my God, this is, and that's it, is you miss them opportunities. You're too busy trying to do that multi-million-pound deal that your kid life just got put at risk. And he says he'd never do it again and stuff like that. And he's learned a huge amount from it. But they're the conversations I've had, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what I need to be doing.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think smart people learn from other people's mistakes. And sometimes you need to hear these conversations to be like, okay.
So yours is, what is your mood right
now? Exhausted, first of all. MK Tech Week was not a joke. No, but seriously, I probably say I feel expectant. I feel like I'm ready for the next adventure. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. But yeah, I feel like I'm on the cusp of a different season in life, and that excites me.
It sounds exciting.
Yeah, we'll have to see what it is. I can feel it coming though. I just don't know.
Finishing this chat.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to be turning 30 next year, and I look forward to what the new decade and what that's all going to bring.
The year that goes by is scary, if I'm honest. Next year being with AI and things like that. It's yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much. It was lovely. Thank you so much.